There was a lot of space in the Concordat Hall. The walls were lit up with soft blue and green lights that pulsed slowly, like a heart beating. In the back corner, Ambassador Tyler Reed sat at a small desk with the symbol of Earth on it. There was no other person in the building. He had been watching two alien species fight over a planet called Vermilion 9 for 3 hours straight. There were a lot of rare minerals on the planet that both sides wanted. The Krix were on one side. They were bug-like creatures with hard shells and too many legs. The Theln, squid-like creatures that wore suits filled with water when they walked on land, were on the other side. Tyler saw the Krix representative click and chirp as it spoke through a mechanical translator box. We are filling out Economic Grievance Form 7 Alpha in accordance with subsection 12 of the Concordat Trade Rules. The Theln diplomat waved its tentacles in the air as if to say, "No." Water sloshed around inside its clear suit. "Your complaint is not valid. We are responding with Trade Sanction Proposal 12 Beta under Article 9. Tyler put his fingers on his forehead and shut his eyes. He had a bad headache. A bad one. When two groups on Earth wanted the same piece of land, things got violent very quickly. The wars began. People died. But in the Concordat they only talked. And talked. And talked some more. This fight had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of writing proposals and counter-proposals and filling out forms. 8 months of legal motions and threats to the economy. No shots were fired. Not a single soldier was sent. Just a lot of red tape. Tyler remembered his first week here. A bird-like alien with purple feathers and 3 eyes who worked as a Concordat mediator had pulled him aside after a session. "Ambassador Reed," it said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes, "you need to know how civilized species settle their differences. War is basic. Savages are violent. We've grown past things like that." Tyler wanted to fight. He wanted to make the point that talking didn't always work. That sometimes bad people only understood violence. But he didn't say anything. People were trying to join the Concordat. Trying to join this community in space. And so far things weren't going well. Earth had tried twice to join. Both times they said no. The reasons were always the same. People were too violent. Too much violence. Too much feeling. Not predictable enough. Too risky. Too much like a person. Tyler looked around the hall at the different alien representatives. Their bodies had adapted to hundreds of different worlds, and they sat in special chairs and breathing spaces. Some of them floated. Some crawled. Some stood on legs he couldn't count. They all thought less of people. He had heard people talking in the hallways. The aliens talked quietly about Earth. About how people have fought in wars throughout history. About the nuclear bombs, the world wars, and the genocide. They looked at people like someone would look at a wild animal. Interesting and maybe even useful, but not civilized enough to be a member of their club. The Krix representative was talking again. "We want immediate access to Vermilion 9 Mining Sector 7. Our legal claim is 6 months older than the Theln." Theln said, "Not relevant. Concordat Preservation Law 445 gives us priority because of our cultural heritage." Tyler wanted to laugh. Heritage of culture. 4 years ago the Theln found the planet. 4 years. They were calling it cultural heritage though. He took out a data pad and looked through some information about Vermilion 9. The planet was in a far-off system at the edge of Concordat space. Contains a lot of titanium and rare earth elements. 2 moons. Atmosphere is thin. A few thousand colonists from both sides had already arrived and staked their claims and started mining. That was the real issue. There were people on the ground on both sides. Both sides had put money into it. Neither side would give in. The Concordat, with all of its rules, laws, and procedures, couldn't figure out what to do about it. Tyler had tried to tell them. He had spoken from this very podium 3 months ago. He had said that this kind of standoff was risky. That when two groups both claimed the same land and had resources there, someone was going to get hurt sooner or later. The alien delegates had been polite. Then they wrote down his worries as Cultural Perspective Notation 7743 and moved on to the next item on the agenda. Tyler now watched as the Krix filed another motion. The Theln responded with another threat of punishment. The mediator said that a subcommittee should be formed to look into the matter more. Tyler checked the time. It was late. Kelly, his wife, would be putting their daughter to bed on Earth. Telling her a story. Putting her to bed. Living a normal life on a planet that suddenly seemed very far away. He thought about where people fit into all of this. It had only been 12 years since Earth had last spoken with the Concordat. Before that, people didn't even know that life on other planets existed. Then one day a Concordat scout ship flew over Tokyo and everything changed. There was panic at first. Then there was excitement. Then it was time to work hard to figure out how to talk to people from other worlds. Learning how to speak their languages. Learning about their cultures. Trying to find a place in a galaxy that had been doing fine without people for thousands of years. The Concordat had made Earth an observer. It meant that people could watch and learn, but they couldn't vote on anything important. It meant being in the back of the room while real members made real choices. 3 years ago, Tyler was named Earth's first full-time ambassador. In theory, his job was easy: make people look good. Show that Earth deserved to be there. Demonstrate that humans are capable of civilization. But it was harder than it seemed. Tyler had to explain everything people did that the Concordat thought was too aggressive. Drills for the military. Treaties for defense. Sometimes action movies caused problems too. The aliens couldn't understand why people liked violent movies and TV shows. The fight kept going on the floor below. The Cricks wanted trade restrictions. The Thelns said they would pull their ambassador out. The mediator said that they should study for a longer time. Tyler's data pad made a buzzing sound. A message from Earth. From the president himself. Need an update on the status. Is it likely that there will be war? Tyler typed back, they don't fight here. Just talking all the time. He felt uneasy even as he sent the message. He knew what was going on because he had read the intelligence reports. He knew what was going on Vermilion 9, but the Concordat delegates didn't seem to care. Both sides were sending drones to the planet. They called them security drones. Robots with guns and shields that work on their own. Hundreds of them are now facing each other across mining areas. The Cricks drones are on one side. The Theln drones on the other side. The Concordat said it was okay. Only security. Just safety. Not a military buildup, because drones weren't really military, were they? Tyler knew better. He had learned about history. He knew how to do these things. You put armed forces, even automated ones, close together and something will go wrong eventually. A misunderstanding. A problem. A crash. And when that happened, when the first shot was finally fired after 8 months of talking, the galaxy was going to learn something important. It was going to find out that the Concordat had lost the ability to fight. But people had not. Tyler shut his data pad and watched the aliens fight over articles, subsections, and legal precedents. He was curious about how much longer the talking would go on. He was curious about what would happen when it finally stopped. In the cold, dark space above that disputed world, the drones stayed in a silent standoff on Vermilion 9. Waiting. Looking. Neither side is willing to give in. Captain Jack Reeves sat in his room on the UDF carrier Gettysburg and looked at 3 big screens on the wall. There were endless streams of data on the screens from intelligence reports. Maps. Positions of drones. Thermal marks. Interceptions of communications. The United Defense Force's best guess about what was going on Vermilion 9. The Gettysburg was still 3 jumps away from the Concordat space. They were on a regular patrol of Earth's outer colonies when they got the orders. Stay where you are. Keep an eye on things. Get ready to go. Lieutenant Beth Carson came into the room with a tablet in her hand. She was Jack's second-in-command on the ship and his executive officer. She had been looking at the same information he had. "Sir, you need to see this," she said as she pulled up a tactical display on the main screen. Vermilion 9's most recent satellite photos. Jack leaned in. The picture showed the areas on the planet's surface where mining is being fought over. There were about 300 Crick security drones on the left, all around the northern mineral deposits. There were about 400 Theln drones on the right side, spread out over the southern territories. Beth shook her head and said, "They're just looking at each other. No movement. No involvement. Just sitting there with weapons ready." Jack asked, "How long has it been like this?" 2 weeks now. Same positions. The same standoff. No shots fired. Jack rubbed his chin. He was 43 years old and had been in the military for 25 years. Before Earth made contact with aliens, he had fought in 3 different wars. He knew what to do in these kinds of situations. Beth went on, "It's posturing. They're trying to scare each other without actually fighting." Jack said, "For now." He opened another file on his own computer. Earth's historical data. Conflicts that had begun precisely in this manner. Bosnia in the 1990s. The crisis in the Taiwan Strait. Syria. Ukraine. Every time, 2 sides with guns pointed at each other, both saying they didn't want war. And every time, someone eventually messed up. Beth seemed to know what he was thinking. "Sir, do you think it's going to get hot?" "I know it is," Jack said in a low voice. "It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when." The when came on a Tuesday. When the alarm bells went off, Jack was in the mess hall drinking coffee. There were red lights flashing all over the ship. In less than 2 minutes he was on the bridge. "Report," he yelled. Rodriguez, a young ensign who worked in communications, looked pale. "Sir, we're getting emergency messages from Concordat Space. Something happened on Vermilion 9. "What kind of event?" "Sir, it's a Crix drone. Its targeting system broke down. It shot at a civilian area in Theln." Jack's stomach dropped. "That's 3 people dead. Theln settlers. Vaporized right away." The bridge stopped making noise. Everyone understood what this meant. "Get me a direct line to Concordat Communications," Jack said. "I want to hear it all." Jack and his crew listened as the galaxy tore itself apart for the next 6 hours. The Theln government was in a state of chaos. Their ambassador to the Concordat was yelling for justice. The Crix said they were sorry, said it was an accident, and offered to pay for it. But it was too late. The talking was done. The Theln Dominion made an official statement at 1800 hours Galactic Standard Time. Jack heard the translation come through the ship's speakers. The words were old-fashioned and formal, and they followed a ritual format that the Theln hadn't used in hundreds of years. It was a declaration of war. The first one to be issued in Concordat space in more than 800 years. "Oh my God," Beth said quietly next to him. "They're really doing it." The Concordat was in a state of total panic. Emergency meetings were called within an hour. Mediators from a dozen different types of animals offered to help work things out. They threatened to impose economic sanctions, propose trade bans. Everyone was rushing to find a way to solve the problem peacefully. Everything except the one thing that really mattered. No one was talking about using military force, because the Concordat didn't have any. Jack opened the military database for species that are members of the Concordat. The numbers were awful. Police departments, drones for security. Orbital guards were made to stop pirates and smugglers. Not even close to a real military. The Crix had it the worst of all. There were only about 10,000 automated drones that were supposed to be used for law enforcement in their entire security force. There were no soldiers. Not any Marines. No army. Nothing. And now they were going to have to fight a war with the Theln Dominion, which had at least some kind of fleet to protect itself. Rodriguez said in a low voice, "They're going to get slaughtered." Jack didn't say anything. He was looking at another report on intelligence. The Theln were already sending ships to Vermilion 9. Their colonists were leaving. Their drones were getting closer to Crix's positions. The Concordat kept going on. Kept coming up with solutions. Kept making motions and asking for calm. And the Crix were about to be killed. That's when the transmission came in. Beth woke Jack up while he was trying to get some sleep in his quarters. "Sir, Ambassador Tyler Reed has an important message for you. He says it's important." Jack put on his uniform and went with her to the communications room. The screen showed Tyler's face. He seemed very tired. His eyes had dark circles around them. "Jack," Tyler said right away. "Get the Gettysburg ready for immediate deployment." "What's going on?" "The Crix just called me directly. They completely ignored the Concordat. They sent a secret message to Earth." Tyler brought up the message on the screen. It was brief. We need troops. We don't have an army. The Theln are on their way. Please help. Name your price." Jack read it 2 times. After that he looked at Tyler again. "What did you say to them?" Tyler's face was serious, but there was something else there too. Something that looked like it made them happy. "I told them we were coming. Does Earth Command know? 30 minutes from now, I'll be talking to the President. But Jack, this is the end. This is the opportunity we've been looking for. The Concordat turned us down twice because they said we were too violent. Too warlike. Too risky." Jack finished by saying, "And now they need exactly that." "That's right. If we help the Crix, they will give us full membership in the Concordat. Plus, you get exclusive mining rights to Vermilion 9. It's everything we wanted." Jack looked at the tactical display that showed where the Theln fleet was going. Then he checked on the condition of his own ship. The Gettysburg was a military ship. It had 1,200 Marines who were trained to go into space. It had gunships, artillery, and all the other weapons of war that the Concordat didn't like. "When will the shooting start?" Jack wanted to know. "Intelligence says 48 hours. Maybe not as much. We can get there in 36 if we push the engines hard." Tyler nodded. "Go ahead. I'll get Earth Command's permission for you. Plan your deployment now." The screen turned black. Jack stood there for a second, thinking about what was going to happen. The Concordat had kept the peace for 800 years by talking, making laws, and using diplomacy. Now everything was falling apart. And the species they had turned down because it was too violent, humanity, was about to show them what real soldiers could do. Beth was looking at him. Sir? Orders. Jack looked at her with a small smile. Sound general quarters. Get the Marines up. Tell them to get ready to go to war. We're going to war. It had been 800 years since the galaxy had last remembered what that word meant. And people were going to teach them. For General Nathan Grant was at the head of the long table in the Pentagon's Situation Room. The room was 3 floors below ground level with steel and concrete walls on all sides. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the most powerful military leaders in the world, were sitting around the table. Nathan was 62 years old, had gray hair and sharp blue eyes that had seen 3 wars. He had been looking forward to this moment for his whole career. There was a holographic display behind him that showed a star map with Vermilion 9 highlighted in red. Hello, gentlemen and ladies, he said. The Crix Collective has made us an offer. He pulled up the official message. It had only come through diplomatic channels 6 hours before. Everyone was quiet as they read it. They're offering full membership in the Concordat, Nathan said. Immediate acceptance. No more waiting. No more applications that don't get accepted. We would have a permanent seat and the right to vote. Helen Foster, the Chief of Naval Operations, leaned forward. And what do you get in return? We protect their holdings on Vermilion 9 from attacks by Theln. They need troops. They need an army. They need us. Helen said, it's a mercenary contract. They're paying us to fight their war. Nathan nodded. That's one way to think about it. What's the other way? It's a foot in the door, Nathan said, his voice getting louder. We've been knocking on the Concordat's door for 12 years, and they keep telling us we're not civilized enough. Not enough violence. It's too dangerous. Now they need what they've been criticizing us for. General Robert Chin, the head of the Joint Chiefs, tapped his fingers on the table. What else do they have to offer besides membership? Nathan opened another file. Exclusive mining rights to Vermilion 9 for 50 years. There are trillions of dollars worth of titanium deposits on the planet. We need rare earth elements to build our own ships. It would move our technology forward by decades. And how much? Robert asked. We send troops to protect Crix colonies and mining operations. We fight back against the Theln. We protect the world. There was a lot of talking in the room. Some were happy. Others were careful. Admiral Foster was shaking her head. This sets a bad example, she said. We become mercenaries for the galaxy. When someone has a problem they call Earth and ask us to bleed for them. Nathan looked her in the eye. Or we become the guardians of the galaxy. The ones who keep the peace when words fail. Is that really that bad? Helen replied, it makes us the bad guys in their story. The people who use guns to solve everything. Nathan shot back, they already see us that way. We're getting paid for it this way at least. This way at least we get respect. Robert raised his hand to ask for silence. Let's take a look at the tactical situation. What are we up against? Nathan changed the display to show the deployments of Theln forces. The Theln Dominion has sent 14 capital ships to the Vermilion 9 theater. There are about 40,000 security drones. Their fleet is in high orbit. They're getting ready to bomb Crix's surface installations from space. Ground troops? Robert asked. None. No infantry. The Theln don't fight like that. No one in the Concordat does either. They use machines that work on their own. Drones. Weapons that can be used from a distance. Nobody sends real soldiers to fight anymore. Robert's face lit up with a smile. They've lost the ability to fight for real. Exactly, Nathan said. They can shoot from space. They can send robots in. But they can't keep the land. They can't change with the times. They can't think on their feet. Robert finished by saying, and we can. Nathan nodded. I think we should send in the 1st Orbital Strike Division. Full combat load. Show them what real Marines can do. It took 15 minutes to talk about the vote. When Robert finally asked for it, everyone raised their hand. Everyone agreed on the decision. Aloud, Robert said. Make our people move. Colonel Derek Hayes stood on the observation deck of Luna Station 72 hours later, watching the 1st Orbital Strike Division get ready to launch. 800 Marines. 12 ships for transport. 4 frigates to protect them. All of it was the best military equipment on Earth. Derek was 40 years old and had been training for space combat since he was 22. He had been in charge of the 1st Division for 3 years. His people were the best drop troops that had ever been made by humans. They were trained to launch from space, go through the atmosphere while being shot at, hit the ground running, and fight even when they were outnumbered. Major Frank Cooper, his second in command, came up next to him. Sir, the fleet is ready. All staff members are present. Supplies are loaded. We can start in half an hour. Derek nodded and kept looking at the ships. How are the soldiers? Happy. Since the Mars Rebellion 5 years ago, no one has seen real fighting. They're ready to show off their skills. Give them a chance. Frank pulled up a tablet that showed news stories about aliens. The Concordat media was giving a lot of coverage to the deployment of humans. Derek saw alien military analysts on screen, with their images translated and subtitled. One of them, a tactical expert from the Concordat, was laughing. Actually laughing. The humans are bringing weapons that move, the alien said through its translator. Gunpowder and metal bullets. Technology that is hundreds of years old by our standards. Basic. Another expert added their thoughts. And their drop pods are a very dangerous way to deploy. Entry into the atmosphere during combat? The number of deaths will be huge. Next, a Theln military strategist came on. The squid-like thing waved its tentacles in a way that said, "No. I'll give them 3 days to back off. For if they can hide well, we have a huge advantage over other drones. The people don't have a chance." Frank stopped the feed. "Sir, they don't think we're that great." "Good," Derek said in a low voice. "Let them." The launch sequence started. Derek and Frank got to the UDF carrier Gettysburg, which was the command ship. They met Captain Jack Reeves on the bridge. "Colonel," Jack said as he shook Derek's hand, "your Marines are ready to go. We can jump to Vermilion 9 right away if you tell us to." Derek looked at the tactical screen. It showed the positions of the Theln fleet in real time, thanks to the sharing of information between Concordat ships. 14 capital ships in high orbit. Huge ships made for long-range attacks. There are 40,000 drones all over the world, both on the ground and in low orbit. No troops on the ground. No foot soldiers. Only ships and machines. Frank was smiling. "Sir, they have no idea what's going to happen." Derek looked at the display more closely. The Theln had set up their troops to be in charge of the orbit. They were in charge of the area above Vermilion 9. They put their drones in defensive circles around the places where they were going to land. Everything was made for fighting at a distance. But there were holes. There are a lot of gaps. The kind of gaps that infantry could use to their advantage. Derek said, "They're fighting the last war. The kind of war that the Concordat has been fighting for hundreds of years. Attacks from a distance. Systems that run themselves. Not close combat." Jack agreed, "That's not the war we fight." Derek looked at Frank. "What is our mission again?" Frank said it from memory. "Protect Crick's holdings from Theln attacks. Get Vermilion 9 safe. Make the enemy forces useless. How we do that is up to us?" "Sir, it's all up to us. Earth Command gave us full control over tactics." Derek turned around and looked at the display again. Theln ships were in high orbit where they thought they were safe. At the drones on the ground, all lined up neatly to protect themselves. At an enemy that hadn't fought a real war in 800 years. "Okay," he said. "This is what we're going to do. We're going to hit them so hard and so quickly that they won't know what hit them. When human soldiers stop following the rules of the Concordat, we're going to show the galaxy what they can really do." He pointed to the Theln positions. "They think that drones and orbital bombardment are what war is all about. We're going to show them that it's about boots on the ground. It's about taking land and keeping it. It's about soldiers who can think, change, and fight." Frank was already getting ready to deploy. "Sir, do you have any drop zone suggestions?" "Multiple insertions. I want all of the squads to hit their perimeter at the same time. Made them confused. Tell them to divide their troops. Then we push through the holes and take over their main bases." Jack whistled. "That's a lot of aggression, Colonel." Derek said, "That's human. Ring the alarm. Get the troops ready. We are going to jump in 2 hours." The fleet started getting ready for the last time. 800 Marines checked their weapons, sealed their armor, and got into drop pods on all of the ships. Each pod was a small, armored capsule that would protect one soldier as they entered the atmosphere. Not very advanced by Concordat standards. Very cruel. Works. Derek walked to his own pod. He locked himself in and checked his gear. Gun. Bullets. A kit for medical use. Gear for talking to people. He had everything he needed to fight and live. The clock started to tick down. 10 minutes until the jump. Derek turned on his communication channel so that he could talk to all of his troops. 800 Marines in their pods all over the fleet heard. He said, "This is Colonel Hayes. We're going to jump to Vermilion 9 in 10 minutes. When we get there, we'll do what people do best. We're going to have a fight. Not with drones. Not with machines. With us. With our training. With our bravery. The galaxy thinks we're not very advanced. Let's show them why basic works. Let's show them why soldiers are important. Let's show them why they need us. 800 people answered. Aura. The countdown to the jump reached 0. The fleet disappeared in a flash of light, moving through 3 systems in an instant. Vermilion 9 filled the view screens when they came out. And the fleet of Theln was waiting. Commander Vosh floated in his command tank, which was full of water, on the Theln flagship. The tank was round and hung in the middle of the bridge, which let him see all of the sensor displays at once. As he looked at the tactical screens, his tentacles rippled with pleasure. 3 hours ago the human fleet had arrived. There are 5 ships in all. Not as big as his 14 capital ships. They were holding their ground at the edge of the star system, almost 1,000,000 kilometers from Vermilion 9. They know better than to mess with us, Vosh told his tactical officer. Their fleet isn't big enough. They are being careful. The tactical officer said, that's smart of them. We have full control of the orbit. We have 40,000 drones in the field. If they got too close the people would die. Vosh agreed. He had looked at the human ships as they got closer. Rough designs. Basic fusion drives and chemical propulsion systems are used together. They had simple missiles and kinetic projectiles as weapons. There was nothing like Theln plasma cannons and graviton beams. Vosh said, they will talk. The Concordat will make a deal happen. People will realize they can't win and will leave. The alarms started going off then. All of the bridge's warning systems went off at the same time. The lights turned red. The sensor displays were full of contacts. A lot of them. A lot. Report. Vosh yelled and his tentacles snapped forward. The voice of the sensor officer was scared. Launch signatures from the human fleet. A lot of small ships are being sent out. Vosh opened the tactical display. He could see them now. A lot of small things were coming off of the human ships. They were very small, each one only a little bigger than a shipping container. He asked, what are those? Unknown, Commander. They are going into the atmosphere of Vermilion 9. The heat signatures are getting stronger. Coming in fast. Vosh got more and more confused as he watched the display. The little boats weren't slowing down. They were speeding toward the planet, diving straight through the upper atmosphere at speeds that were hard to believe. He said out loud, atmospheric assault? That's suicide. The stress and heat will kill them. But the things kept coming. Hundreds of burning trails showed up in the sky over Vermilion 9. It looked like a meteor storm from the ground. Fire fell from the sky. Theln drone operators on the ground were shocked to see the sky turn orange and red. Every burning streak was a drop pod. Inside each pod was a fully armored human soldier. The pods hit the ground with loud thuds. Dust and debris flew out in all directions. There was silence for a moment. The Theln drones moved their sensors around to try to figure out what had just happened. After that, the pods opened. Sergeant Rita Hayes was the first person to leave her pod. The door blew up with explosive bolts and she rolled out with her rifle in her hands. Her boots hit the rocky ground of Vermilion 9, and she was on the move right away. Alpha Team, come with me, she yelled into her radio. Get in line. That ridge line is 200 meters away. 11 more pods had landed in a rough circle around her. Her squad was already coming out, weapons drawn and looking for danger. Bravo Team, go to the left. Rita kept giving orders to her troops. Charlie Team, I need you to shoot at that group of drones at 3 o'clock. The Theln drones finally did something. They had been set up to defend themselves. They took their places as planned and started looking for targets. But they had never seen anything like this before. The people were not coming from just one direction. They were not using cars or planes. They were soldiers on foot, moving in small groups and coming from dozens of different landing zones at the same time. Rita's tactical display showed friendly positions lighting up over a 10-kilometer area. Hundreds of Marines hitting the ground at once. All of them are moving. All of them moving forward. Contact front, one of her soldiers yelled. A Theln drone came out from behind a group of rocks. It was 6 meters tall, had 4 mechanical legs and plasma cannons on its shoulders. The machine used several sensors to scan the area. Get involved. Rita gave the order. 10 guns fired at the same time. By Concordat standards, the bullets were old technology. Chemical explosions shoot simple metal projectiles. But there were a lot of them and they hit hard. The drone's shields flickered and then broke under the constant attack. The armor plating broke. Internal systems sparked and then stopped working. The machine fell to the ground with a shower of sparks. Keep going. Rita yelled. Don't stop. Don't let them get used to it. That was the most important thing. The Theln drones were made to fight other drones. Responses that are programmed. Tactics that are easy to guess. They thought that enemies would take cover and shoot at each other from a distance. But the people didn't fight like that. Rita's team was already on its way to the next goal. They ran in pairs, using the land to protect each other. When they met resistance, they didn't stop to shoot at each other. They went to the sides. They moved around. They asked for help. Private Kevin Walsh saw 6 drones setting up a defensive position in a narrow valley. He told the sergeant, "I've got eyes on heavy drones," grid reference Delta 4. Rita looked at her tactical display. "Got it? Calling for air support." She changed the frequency. "Alpha 1, this is Gunship 3. A Delta 4, I need help with fire. 6 big targets in a valley. Close to danger, we're 200 meters south." "Copy Alpha 1," was the answer. "Gunship 3 is on its way. 30 seconds. Rita counted down. She told her squad to take cover after 20 seconds. She heard the roar of engines at 10 seconds. The human gunship flew low and fast, only 50 meters above the ground. It was a nasty-looking machine with a lot of armor and weapon mounts. The people who made the Concordat would have called it crude. But it worked. Rockets shot out of the gunship's pods. In 2 seconds, 8 missiles hit the drone group. The valley was lit up by the explosions. After the smoke cleared, all 6 drones were on fire. "Direct hit," Rita said again. "Thanks, Gunship 3. Anytime, Sergeant. We are here for you." This was a war with many different types of weapons. Troops on the ground. There is air support above. Artillery in the back. Everything working together. For hundreds of years, this is how people fought wars. The Theln had never seen anything like it before. Commander Vosh watched from space as his troops fell apart. The tactical display showed that his drones were losing their positions in several areas. There were people everywhere, and they were moving too fast and hitting too hard. He told them to order the drones to consolidate. Pull back to your defensive lines. But the drones weren't able to change that quickly. They were set up to work in certain situations. They couldn't deal with an enemy that moved like water, going around strong points and hitting weak spots. In one area, a human squad called in artillery fire that wiped out an entire drone battalion. In another, soldiers with portable anti-armor weapons attacked a supply convoy. No matter where the Theln tried to draw a line, people found a way to get around it. The Theln forces had been pushed back to where they first landed 24 hours after the drop. Vosh told everyone to pull back to their defensive positions. Theln ships started taking people off the planet's surface 48 hours after the drop. The drones were left behind because their programming was too rigid to allow for a fighting retreat. Rita and her team watched from a hilltop as the last Theln ship took off. Soldiers were all around them, securing their positions, treating the wounded, and counting their bullets. "Sergeant Hayes," her radio said. Colonel Derek Hayes, who is not related to the person in charge, was in charge of the whole thing. "Report on the status." "Sir, my area is safe. The enemy troops have left. We're keeping all of our main goals." "Well done, Sergeant. Give your people a break. We're sending drops of supplies." Rita looked at her team. They were tired and dirty, but they were smiling. They did what the Concordat thought was impossible in just 72 hours. They had won a war on the ground against more people. The Concordat had forgotten something very important. War was not just about technology. It wasn't about having the biggest ships or the best drones. Soldiers were the main part of war. People who could think, adapt, and live, who could look at a problem and figure out how to fix it. People who could work together, trust each other, and stand up for each other. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson. People were raising flags over captured buildings all over Vermilion 9. The Crick settlers were having a party. Ambassador Tyler Reed was already writing the report to send back to Earth. And alien governments all over Concordat space were watching the footage with a mix of shock and awe. The people had done it. Against all odds, against a larger force, and against an enemy that had every advantage. They had won. Commander Vosh sat in his command tank and watched the retreat. He was done with his job. His good name is ruined. But all he could think about were the trails of fire in the sky. The fire rain that had brought soldiers from Earth. And everything changed. There was no noise at all in the Concordat Hall. The huge room was completely silent. More than 300 alien delegates sat in their special seats, with their breathing machines humming softly, their water tanks bubbling, and gravity fields keeping different species in their preferred positions. At the center podium was Ambassador Tyler Reed. Huge holographic screens behind him showed video from Vermilion 9. People fighting while moving forward. Drop pods screaming through the air. Theln drones going off. The pictures kept playing. For 3 days Tyler had been getting ready for this. The emergency meeting had been called right after the Theln retreat. Some species wanted to say well done to people. Some people wanted to punish them. Today was the day of the vote to join the Concordat of Earth. Members of the Concordat, Tyler said, his voice steady. I know a lot of you don't like what you've seen. Some of you have already made formal complaints about how people act. About how we use force. About what you call too much violence. He stopped for a moment to let that sink in. Some of you have been much quieter. In the last 48 hours, I have gotten 17 requests for private meetings. Agreements on trade. Partnerships for defense. Exchanges of technology. You want what we have. There was a wave of movement through the assembly. Some delegates moved around uncomfortably. Some people stayed perfectly still. Tyler pointed to the video behind him. Let me make it clear what happened on Vermilion 9. For 1,000 years, you have kept the peace through talking things over. Through rules and laws and endless talks. That's a good thing. That is polite. I really mean that. He made his voice sound more stern. But it only works if everyone agrees to follow those rules. The holographic display changed to show the moment the Krik's drone broke down and killed the Theln colonists. Tyler went on, the Theln stopped following your rules. They started a war. A real war. And all of your diplomacy was for nothing. The Kriks couldn't protect themselves. They didn't have an army. No troops. Nothing but police drones that are used for law enforcement. There was another picture. The Concordat emergency session, where delegates fought for 3 days while the Theln fleet got ready. You held emergency meetings. You suggested mediation. You said you would punish them. You did everything but the one thing that really mattered. You couldn't stop them. Tyler leaned over the podium. We could. We did. And we will do it again for anyone who is fair to us. The hall got even quieter. You could have heard a pin drop. The Concordat Prime Minister was an old being that looked like a floating crystal and spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Are you threatening this assembly, Ambassador Reed? Tyler just said, no. I'm saying something true. You need something from humanity. The ability to send out force. The ability to fight when you need to. You turned down our applications to join twice because you said we were too violent. Too pushy. You have now seen what happens when violence is needed but no one can provide it. He stood up straight. So this is where Earth is. We want to be a part of the Concordat. We want to be a part of this group. We will obey your laws and follow your traditions. But we won't say sorry for being good at something you decided to stop doing. A representative from one of the peaceful species stood up. You talk about violence like it's something to be proud of. No, Tyler said. I call it a tool. One that should be used with care and only when it's needed. But it is a real tool. Not acknowledging it doesn't make you more civilized. It just makes you weak. The argument went on for 6 hours. Some species were very against letting humans join. They said Earth was dangerous. Brutal. A threat to the values of the Concordat. But other people, especially those on the frontier, those with weak colonies, and those who had watched the Theln crisis get worse and worse, voted differently. Earth's membership passed by only 12 votes when the final count came in. Not very much. But it went through. 3 months later, Lieutenant Beth Carson walked through the new human embassy on the Concordat homeworld. The building was made of glass and steel, which is typical of modern Earth architecture. It stood out among the organic shapes of alien buildings. There was a line of alien delegates outside the embassy that went down the street. Some were real ambassadors. Some were trade agents. Advisors for the military. Business leaders. All of them were waiting to meet with people in charge. Beth found Ambassador Reed in his office going over some papers. The office had a window that looked out over the capital city of the Concordat. The alien buildings went on, beautiful and strange. Sir, you need to see this, Beth said, pointing to the window. Tyler got up and looked outside. Since this morning, the line of aliens waiting outside has gotten even longer. Beth said quietly, they're scared of us. Tyler nodded. Okay. Sir? Tyler said, fear breeds respect. They called us primitive for 12 years. Now that they've seen what we can do, they're changing their minds. That fear will become respect. And respect will lead to real partnerships. Beth said, some of them still hate us. The vote was close. I know. We will have to keep proving ourselves. But we are in now. That's what counts. Colonel Derek Hayes stood on a hill on Vermilion 9 and looked down on the main mining complex. People and Krik's workers were working together on huge excavation projects. The minerals were moving. The cash was coming in. And his battalion of 800 Marines was still there, keeping things safe. Major Frank Cooper, Derek's second in command, walked up next to him. Sir, we just got another request through diplomatic channels. A new colony on the frontier called New Harmony. They are having trouble with raiders. They want to hire people to be security guards. Derek opened the request on his tablet. New Harmony was a small farming world 6 systems away. The raiders were probably just pirates, which isn't a big deal. But the people who lived there were scared. What did Earth Command tell you? Derek asked. They're letting the local governor decide. If we want to send a platoon, we can talk about the terms directly. Derek gave it some thought. There were 40 soldiers in a platoon. Enough to deal with pirates. Not enough to put his resources on the line for Vermilion 9. Let them know we will do it. Rates that are normal. We pay for their transportation and supplies, and they pay for our security and training. Frank smiled. That is the 5th contract this month, sir. I know. The requests kept coming in. A mining colony was worried about fights over land. A trade station that wanted to keep smugglers out. A research base in a dangerous area. They all wanted the same thing. Soldiers who are human. For 1,000 years the galaxy had no military forces. They were at ease. And then the Theln crisis reminded everyone that safety wasn't always real. They wanted insurance now. They wanted someone who could really fight if things went wrong. And they were ready to pay for it. General Nathan Grant went over deployment orders with his staff in the Pentagon's Situation Room back on Earth. There were star charts on the table that showed where human troops were stationed in Concordat space. His chief of staff said, the 1st Division is still on Vermilion 9. The 2nd Division is finishing up their training at Luna Station. New recruits are now joining the 3rd. The 4th should be up and running in 6 months. Nathan looked at the charts. Red markers showed where troops were stationed at the time. Blue markers showed where people wanted to be. There were a lot of blue markers. Nathan said, we need more divisions. Congress just agreed to pay for the 5th and 6th, his chief of staff said. Recruitment has gone up by 300% since Vermilion 9. Now everyone wants to be an orbital marine. Nathan let out a small smile. He had been fighting for bigger military budgets for years. For better tools. For more practice. Congress had always said no. Why did Earth need a big army when they were trying to join a peaceful Concordat? Congress couldn't give money fast enough now. What is our current operational capacity? Nathan asked. We can support 7 battalion-level deployments at the same time. If we stretch our resources, maybe 10. We have 12 requests that are still open. I understand, sir. We need to start putting things in order of importance. Nathan looked at the charts of the stars again. There were now human soldiers in a dozen different systems. Keeping colonies safe. Teaching local troops. Showing the galaxy what real safety looked like. It wasn't what he had thought it would be like when he joined the military 40 years ago. He thought he would have to protect Earth. To fight for colonies of people. To safeguard human interests. But this was better. This was an influence. This was strength. This was respect. Nathan said softly, the time of only diplomacy is over. The Concordat is learning that peace needs to be protected, not just talked about. His chief of staff nodded. And we are the ones who are protecting it. For now. In the end, the other species will build their own armies again. Take a lesson from us. But it will take a long time. Perhaps hundreds of years. We are what the galaxy needs until then. Nathan opened another request that had just come in. Unknown forces were attacking a major trade route. The Concordat Security Council officially asked for human patrol ships. He said yes with just one keystroke. The sun was setting over Washington outside the Pentagon. People all over the world were getting used to their new roles. No longer outsiders trying to prove they deserved to be members of the Concordat. Now they were the experts. They were the ones who did the work that no one else wanted to do. The people who knew that sometimes peace meant threatening violence. That night, Ambassador Tyler Reed sat in his embassy office and worked through the never-ending paperwork that comes with being a diplomat. Earlier, his wife had texted him to ask when he would be coming back to Earth to visit. He said soon. When things calmed down. But things were not getting better. They were speeding up. Every day brought new chances. New problems. New chances to show what people could do for the galaxy. His computer made a sound. One more request. A different colony is asking for help. Tyler smiled and started to write his answer. The business was good.